What's going on, everybody? Payneblade back here again from server 1 representing IC. And guys, today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about what if the game goes global by New Year's or goes global by 2021 of March, which is going to be the 1 year anniversary of Tribes. I want to talk about this because I'm getting a lot of new players obviously jumping into the game. We're noticing Discord numbers go up, we're noticing the game numbers go up, and the new servers are getting full again. So a couple of things we want to talk about and what Bandai needs to do to essentially get prepared for the actual release of global if it ever does happen. And my predictions, it's hopefully going to be at the 1 year mark, maybe not New Year's, maybe a little too early because we already know Minato's coming for closer to that time. So you know, what better way to introduce this game is to globally than the New Year anniversary, right? So what I want to do is kind of go back through memory lane, guys, with you guys, and especially newer players, to tell you the hardships that we faced as day one Tribes players, and how the game has slowly improved and now has become probably one of the most free-to-play friendly gachas out there for Naruto, as well as probably one of the best gachas out there for Naruto. So let's talk about a few things, okay? So when you were one of the first players to join this, if you were a day one player, I'd say for about the first four months, 3.5 months maybe, we suffered quite a bit. So here's how it worked, guys, back in the day. All right, so UR fragments, they didn't exist, right? The only thing that existed back in the day were Omni fragments. Omni fragments, if you don't know, there were there were 4 ways to get them. One way was to hit Blessing 15 and then you'll get one daily. All right, and that was the hardest one because at that point you'd have to be a whale. So I was hitting one of those marks for sure. There's a few others on server 1, and I mean there was probably, I'd say, 20 odd people who were doing that consistently on a daily basis after, let's say, a month and a half. All right, so Omni frag number 1. Omni frag number 2 was you'd have to hit 1 to 3 in arena, top 3 in arena every single day in order to get that second Omni fragment. And the third way was you had to complete the entire 10 matches in arena, which will give you an extra Omni fragment, but it cost you 150 Shino coins. And back then, Shino coins were not easy to get. So that was number 3. And then lastly was the RNG based one, which was in NWT. NWT Ninja World Tournament. If you were in A and an S, you would be able to get yourself an Omni fragment. So those are the only ways. The only other way to pull yourself UR fragments was to get dupes. That was the only way, guys. So when you hit a 5-star UR back in the day, you were considered a mega whale. Like, we're talking about you've spent insane amounts of money just to get that, because events like Abyss that's going on now, for example, right there with Kakashi and Obito, didn't exist, right? So things like Flashback Genealogy did not exist. Things like ATB, Alliance Team Battle, did not exist. So the only things that existed as game modes was Arena, Tower of Eternity, Ninja World Tournament, and even joint exercises, guys, did not have URs in them. They only had SRs and Rs. So we were stuck grinding every single day or spending a buttload of money to get yourself the dupes from summons. Now, the feature banners did exist, but the rates were never higher, were never lower. They were exactly what they are now. So if you guys are curious to see the pain, no pun intended, that I had to go through, jump onto my first video, for example, for Corinne, or any of my older summoning videos before the Akatsuki showed up. So Datara was the first time an event actually showed up. So this was the game-breaking moment for Tribes. That's when things change. But if you want to see the pain that people have to go through, jump onto my old videos. You'll see how many summons I had to do just to get a 4-star, let alone grinding a 5-star with Omni fragments. All right, and at the time Orochimaru did not sell any UR fragments. Okay, so that was also like a big thing as well too. He only sold SR fragments. So that was the first big problem. The second big problem we had back in the day was Ryo. Ryo was still an issue and still is an issue, but at least now with the Rin Festival, they've done something. There were no events back in the day. Like, I think the first event they introduced was the 1 million download, and that was when everything started happening, like for Tribes, right? So that was the biggest issue. And not only that, like I mentioned, the lack of gameplay was huge back in the day, right? Like, you only had 3 things to really do. NWT was Ninja World Tournament was automated. Arena was automated, but I mean, that's something you had to do every day, at least the 10 to 5 matches. And then you had the ability to do Tower of Eternity, but then when you get to 50, you were stuck, right? So let's talk about the good now. So what happened from that point on? The moment the Akatsuki showed up, so Datara and Sasori, they introduced Flashback Genealogy. Now, the funny thing about that is that was the first time that people were like super excited they can actually get 5-star URs. They also introduced URs in the joint exercises. So now it wasn't just SRs and rares, it was also URs that you could get. The crazy thing though was when FG first arrived, everybody finished it. We're talking about free to play. We're talking about like new players were finishing it. We went all the way to whales. Everybody was finishing it. And at the time, Bandai even put in a small print that this event is going to be impossible to finish. But I believe they messed up and somebody curbed the difficulty to be really easy. Okay. The moment that event ended and Abyss came next, that was the newest event for us, only 3 people started beating these contents. Okay, and we're talking about Abyss, FG, back to back every single 2 weeks with the new banners that came out. And then we're talking about myself, Joel, and Blue were the only ones at the time finishing these events. And this is probably 3 months worth of events that nobody else but us 3 could finish. So I think at the time, Bandai really catered to whales and wanted people to spend a ton of money in order to get these characters maxed out, in order to beat these events so they can maximize the amount of fragments you can get. Now keep in mind here, guys, the rates for summons did not change. They still remained the same. There were just brand new events for us to work on, and at the time everyone was complaining. I even made videos about it saying it's kind of shiesty that Bandai would do this, where they only allow whales to take benefit of this. And we're talking about 3 whales, and even then Blue was the only one that was actually consistently finishing these events. Myself and Joel only finished a few of them, right? So that was probably the biggest problem. They were bringing out events that you could actually maximize your characters if you pulled them, and a lot of people were happy about that, but people were not able to actually finish the events. And at that point, it was still impossible to get Ryo. It was still impossible, to get certain things for free-to-play players. So the Orochimaru shop started selling UR fragments for 1,500 Shino coins. So things like that were still happening. So that was still a really, really big issue for tribes. And at the time, the content was becoming stale because we were having like 3 months of back-to-back FG and Abyss. It just kept going, and we're like, what the heck's going on? We need to finally get something new. So I mean, they went in the right direction by improving, by adding more content, by adding ways to get character fragments, by adding more UR features. They introduced limit breaks, of course, which help characters change a little bit in terms of how they're used. They added new traits for them, added in more stats. So limit breaks was a huge one as well too that was introduced. And then they introduced the evil frames, which we all know and talk about all the time. You've heard me talk about it on the podcast already, so I won't get into that. But there were a lot of new things that were introduced into tribes during that time, and there was a buzz about it. But after 2 to 3 months of just doing that constantly, there needed to be something fresh. So I'm just giving you guys a little history here, okay? So finally, Bandai released Alliance Team Battle, which was probably the best event they could have possibly ever introduced, because it pitted alliances versus alliances in a point system where you guys would fight the group of Akatsuki members, and by beating them, you get points, you get weapon fragments, you get UR fragments, you get their fragments, you get promotional things, you get weapon fragments for them, and and at the end you get a frame, you get awakening orbs, which was impossible at the time to get anyways, unless you're S tier, and you would also get yourself 30 fragments for each character that you killed. And that actually brought the community really close, because it helped us work together in order to beat the content. Now, if you've seen the last ATB that came out, you know that we worked even better together, because S2 introduced the love strat, and most of us were able to finish most of the Akatsuki, which we thought was going to be impossible. So this event was huge, because not only did it bring something fresh to the game, but it also brought the community closer, right? So for new players, just so you know how this is working out, now you're even able to get more UR fragments. So now for new free-to-play players, this game has pretty much become free-to-play friendly at this point, right? So let's talk about what happens if this game goes global. Like, what do we need to change to attract new players and to attract veteran players to stick around and want to play? So the first few things you're going to hear about us: put in a step up banner, put in a pity banner, raise the rates. Those are the big ones right there, okay? So Bandai knows that there are people who will simp for characters and spend thousands upon thousands of Shino coins to get them, and it is ludicrous for people to spend anything more than 20k to get one character. It's crazy. Like, that is more than, what is that? It's more than $150, $200, right? So it just doesn't make sense for Bandai to do that to the community, especially with how close this community is. So the first thing they need to do is introduce a step up banner or a pity system like every other gacha does. That's the number one complaint most people will say. Number 2, add in another game mode. Add in, like, ATB is great. If you're gonna do it monthly, do it monthly. But here's one thing with ATB: change the damn times. Like, don't make us have a 2 hour window just to do this, because everyone lives in different time zones. Give us at least 12 hours. Like, 12 hours is great. That way people can log in after they wake up, do their thing. There's no harm in that, right? So by putting the 2 hour limit, you're kind of reducing the chances of any alliance to really go at their full potential. Doesn't matter if they're top alliances or not. So that would be a big difference. But add in something else that's a little more friendly. You know what? Like add in I mean, it can be anything. It can be anything with even small rewards. Something just to keep us busy that does not require stamina. All right. And speaking of stamina, you guys need to increase the stamina rate. That's too low compared to most other games. Most other games can recover stamina fairly quickly. This game takes quite a bit of it. So that's another thing Bandai needs to do, is change the amount of time it takes for stamina to refresh. All right. Ryo. Now with the Rin Festival, this was probably the best event Bandai's ever introduced. We're not talking about a game mode. We're just talking about event. First holiday event, amazing free-to-play character. Probably the best way to get Ryo ever, and probably will be the best way. So Bandai, keep that up. Like, don't stop doing that. We need to have events like this to keep us interested and to have abilities to get resources, and then so we can hoard it, and when new characters come out, we can use it, right? So that's another great way to do this. Live PvP. This is one that has been, like, this game is very free to play friendly, and it's also very PvE oriented, right? But live PvP needs to happen for those hardcore players who want to jump in here and prove their skills, improve their teams, and their theory crafting. And speaking of theory crafting, add in a practice mode or add in test dummies with damage meters, healing meters, and tank meters. We need to know how a lot of this stuff works. Like, we're guessing, we're testing, but at the end of the day, unless you're coming out, Bandai, and telling us this is exactly how it works, we're just guessing still. We're testing, and there's too many various factors for us to be 100% correct. A lot of the big ups to the community. Well, a lot of us have done testing and given, created videos, created documents, and educated the community on how this game works. But it should technically come from the horse's mouth, right? So live PvP. Put in a test dummy for damage meters, healing meters, etc. So we know what our characters are doing and what their full potentials are and where we need to improve. So live PvP is a huge one, guys. Another one that we need to have as well too is better rates overall. If you're not going to do a pity banner, if you're not going to do a step up banner, increase the rates, right? Like, make it easier for people to pull characters. If you're not going to put in a pity system, like, the percentages to pull a featured banner is insanely low. So that needs to be implemented as well too, guys. What else? Blessing levels, raise those. Like, you've raised level cap to 105, and there's no reason for that crazy increase. You could have just done up to like 100 and given us more blessing levels that we could take advantage of. Like, a lot of people have been sitting at 15 and just, especially day one players, and just twiddling their thumbs waiting for something new to come out because it just keeps accruing every single time. So that's something else that needs to be addressed, guys. You guys need to do that. And the biggest thing, I think, more than anything, if you guys decide to go global, you need to set up a better communication system with the players, all right? Because right now we don't really know what you're talking about. We don't know, events that are going to be happening until 2 days, 3 days before. There should be more hype behind it, not only through the Japanese Twitter page, but there needs to be a North American Twitter page or something with North America included as well too. And at the same time, if there's bugs, guys, notify us about those bugs. You guys should be doing your own testing, not having the community do the testing on your behalf. And at the end of the day, if we do your testing for you and we continue to do this, your customer service needs to reply a lot faster than 7 to 10 days, which is crazy to me. So Bandai, pick up your game on that regard. Like, we're doing a lot of the work for you, but yeah, just reply to us. Outside of that, guys, though, this game has improved so much, so fast, and so well. I love this game personally because it's not only catering to Bandai as a company, but it's catering to the community. As I mentioned, if you look from day one and you just listen to this entire thing, you can see the progression. A lot of free-to-play characters now are getting 5-star URs. A lot of free-to-play characters now, or players, are now getting 6-star URs because of the UR fragments they're saving. And the fact that fragments drop from events make it a lot easier and worthwhile to collect SRs and URs. Also, one other thing they could add is every UR in the Shinobi Exchange Shop, once the event is over, put them in at 1 star, let people get them at least for link bonuses, right? That link bonus system is greedy, so if you change that by putting every single unit after their banner runs out in the UR shop for the Shinobi Exchange Shop, I think it's worth it. Not everybody has enough coins to buy them anyways, but that way at least you give the people the option to complete link bonuses and go ahead and use the characters they want at their maximum capacity. So those are some of the things, guys, I think need to happen to change the game for the better. But at the moment, I will tell you this, it is still the best Naruto gacha game in my opinion out there. I've played Voltage, I played Blazing, I've played this. This is the only game that gives you your time in life to do what you want to do and still jump on and do really well. And the only thing this game really lacks now is global. Outside of the things I mentioned, global is the big one. If you guys come out globally, make those changes, and I promise you'll see a better crowd and a happier crowd and newer players jumping on. Keep it up with the festival. That was amazing. That was one of the things. Keep it up with the fragments for characters. Raise your rates a little bit, guys. Give us a pity banner, for God's sakes, once in a while. And outside of that, guys, live PvP will make all the difference in the world. Those are really the major ones. The game has improved so much. I really hope everyone that's jumped on here and watched my videos that are new players especially, have enjoyed the game thoroughly and you've learned a lot. But at the same time, you know what? If this goes global, guys, we're going to see a huge community increase, and we're going to see a huge rise in player base. And one thing I do want to say with to the players, though, if you are playing this game and you have like 20 alts and you're clogging up every server and you're never using those alts, go in there and delete them, guys, because we have a lot of new players joining, and they don't have a choice but to join either a new server. Some people want to play with their friends. They want to join older servers, right? So if you are a player who has a ton of alts but you never use them, guys, just delete them. Delete them. Let's open up some server space and let new players jump on, because right now that's another big issue. Players cannot play because servers are being full, so community gets kind of stunted there. And I think Bandai is noticing by releasing newer servers, and they know by the time Minato drops, new servers are going to have to open again. But we can do our part here by removing some of those alts we're never using. Anyways, guys, I hope this was informative. I hope this kind of helped a lot of new players understand why this game is so good as it is now, why it has improved, and why Bandai continues to improve. So that's a good sign, guys. This game has not stopped improving. It will continue to improve, I believe, and we're only going to get better from here. So for those new players who are joining, welcome to Tribes. For the veterans, I know we're happy where things are, and hopefully it gets better though for us as well too, because, you know, doing the same content every time is a little stale. But nonetheless, I know Bandai will increase things by New Year's, and most likely by the 1st year anniversary. Anyways, guys, this is Payne. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.